Dear viewers, welcome to tonight's performance of What Has the Graduate Diploma Done for Me? It tells the tale of the handsome and ever so creative fellow Martin and his journey of becoming a graphic designer unlike any the world has seen before. Enjoy! Our journey begins with the ambitious young graphic designer joining the graduate diploma at Kingston University. Martin studied with the intent of reaching new heights through his work as an artist and building a proper portfolio that stands out amongst the crowd. He started preparing himself for a future career in the field of graphic design and ventured into the unknown. As a designer, Martin follows the principle of making his work engaging whilst never taking himself too seriously. He challenges himself by experimenting with new and emerging media and is on an everlasting journey to improve his set of skills. It is important to him that his work conveys meaning and educates, even though the delivery of his work might get distorted through the creative and transformative process it undergoes. The final outcome always manages to hit the mark. Through his studies, our aspiring graphic designer came to the realization that his work is of value. He tries to remind himself of that whilst battling the irrational monster of fear that is fueled by imposter syndrome and insecurities. It's an uphill battle that can seem grim at times, but our young student managed to stay afloat and realize his self-worth and the power he possesses as a creative practitioner. In the future, Martin hopes that he can put his skills to use and create work that engages with an audience. To be blunt, Martin is striving for recognition, not only from his fellow practitioners, but also from the public. In his daydreams, he sees himself as a master of his chosen discipline, endowed with riches, truly, a graphic designer unlike any the world has seen before. So I wanted to take a little break from this opera fantasy that I created for this project and talk some facts. So before the GDCP, I was already a graphic design student back in Austria with no concrete future plans and the COVID-19 pandemic at its peak. I chose this career because I've always excelled in creative disciplines. So after attending the creative branch of my middle school, 5 years of design school, and 1 extra year of postgraduate design studies, I decided to go to Kingston and finish my master's in graphic design. I did this with the intention to properly prepare myself for a future career in graphic design. And because I'm a bit of a competitive person and a little bit narcissistic, I decided to pick myself as the sun character in the first scene of the play, like rising above the rest. And this should show my ambition when it comes to graphic design, because I always strive to improve myself, and when I do, I I like to just show it off. So moving on to my individual creative standpoint. My individual creative standpoint as a practitioner is something that I had troubles defining, but I think it basically boils down to always wanting to push myself further, trying something new, experimenting with emerging media, just creating things that I want to show and be proud of. My idol Keith Haring once said, art is for everyone. So making my work diverse and accessible, getting it out there for everyone to see, it's something that I care about deeply. Another aspect I care a lot about is that my work should be fun. It shouldn't take itself too seriously, and although good design, especially graphic design, should always follow the principle of being easy to read and understand, like basically that design should not need to explain themselves and just speak for themselves, yeah. But I think it's fun, and I encourage others to like go off the rails, break the rules, and create something more a bit artsy, not confined by the rules of what supposedly defines graphic design, because then you just end up with like fun stuff. And one example of this could, for example, be this exact video essay I'm doing right now, because I was just tasked with creating a simple video talking about my journey at Kingston so far, but I wanted to make it more special than that. So I went in a bit of a different direction by telling my story through emotions, my interests in opera, and I just tried to like push the story through allegories and symbolism. And in my play, like itself, I try to showcase all of these things associated with my creative standpoint through this cute little goblin character in the second scene, where he tries to hit this target practice. And just like some of my design approaches can be hit or miss, he at first fails to hit the target, but in the end he gets a hit dead center. And yeah, I found that was really cute. So moving on to the developing practice. Since I started my studies at Kingston, I feel like my skills have steadily improved, especially when it comes to like 3D modeling and animation. I made some significant improvements, like exploring areas with building my first proper website, or doing a research deep dive into something seemingly mundane like a teapot. It has taught me a lot about what I want to do with my work and where I want to go with it in the future. So through my studies, I continue to refine my distinct visual language that encompasses all of my creativity, everything that I care about, like expressing my queerness, focusing on diversity in design, and just creating engaging pieces of work. And as you can see here in the video, I had a lot of fun working on many different projects, ranging from kinky Christmas cards to subway station redesigns. In my play, I had a bit of a grim approach to this topic, because even though I'm usually very pleased with my final outcomes, getting there can be a bit of a struggle. So I tried showcasing this by battling this monster that is representative of all my doubts and fears about my work, where in the end my self-insert sun character manages to survive, barely. And this is very true to my journey, because I'm always faced with thoughts of imposter syndrome and whether my work has worth to it, but that's just, yeah, it has. So moving on to the last section for this essay, it's the future. And no one can predict the future, but I like to imagine myself in the future as a successful graphic designer, creating work that engages with an audience. I hope that I'll be able to put my skills to use and work on amazing projects that have an impact on society. And as of now, this mostly has happened by like sharing my projects with my friend of circles and colleagues. But my hopes are that I will eventually reach like a global audience. So for my play, I decided to portray myself walking down this regal hallway, like plastered with fancy, famous artworks, and then later on showed myself being showered with money. And it's taking the wanting to be successful part, like the fantasy, to the max. I tried to bring a little bit of comedy into this by calling myself a graphic designer, unlike any the world has seen before, because I'm drowning in money, which, let's face it, is not the most realistic outcome. But through this depiction, I also try to showcase that I try to put myself to a high standard and want to see myself succeed in the profession of my choosing. Thanks for watching.